Welcome to the Wolf and Bull podcast. I am the Wolf, and I actually did it this time. I did it this time again. This is a constant battle every episode. Across from me is my co-host, the Bull, and his sounds. If I could do it. There we go. Yeah, look at that. Look at him. Half bull, half human.
You know, the first sound sounded very much like an October sound. The second sound, not so much.
I think it's a wonderful, beautiful sound. I think it encapsulates you perfectly as a person.
A bull.
A bull person.
A bull sound, a bull person.
Human person.
A minotaur.
Yeah. We also have the third co-host of the Wolf and Bull podcast. We have Baewolf. Has the most normal intro music.
Is that normal?
It is, yeah. I've got a wolf. You have some hybrid monster thing, and she's...
That's me.
Yeah. It's just a wonderful...
I'm back in Ireland right now.
I was going to say, you're like nostalgically thinking of the Great Potato Famine.
What's that song? That rooster song. I love that rooster song.
And here's the rooster.
It comes into
our yard.
I don't know the rest.
Everyone watching's like, these people are crazy.
It's an old Irish,
It is.
bar song.
It's one that'll get you
Pub
through
song.
one of those, bus tours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Where
Break
everyone's
out the
asleep.
rooster song.
I could use like chicken pot
do
pie
not
right now,
break
or
out
shepherd's
that.
pie.
Do not ever break out that video of me zonked out on that tour bus. That was just terrible.
You know what? Jet lag. It's real.
Yeah,
It
is
kills
real.
you.
Well, I didn't
Even when
use
you think,
yours.
it won't be that bad. It's always that bad.
Yeah.
Always.
I didn't use your special little, app for that.
I was the only
yes.
one that did because I'm the perfect traveler.
You don't know. You
I
go
am.
into like a hypnotic hibernation or something.
'Cause I'm a wolf.
You're a wolf, but you put on your little. There's only one outfit you ever wear on a plane, by the way, that I've ever seen.
It's called fashion exercise chic is what it's called. Yeah. Before we jump into the topic of the episode today, just a quick reminder to our listeners, our viewers, our followers, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, if you like anything to do with our show, go ahead and give us a subscribe on YouTube, a follow on Instagram, and you can find us on all of the major listening platforms. If you haven't left a 5-star review, how dare you? Go ahead and leave a 5-star review. If you liked what you hear, go ahead and not leave a 5-star review. If you didn't like what you hear, we'll fix it. We'll get better. We'll become better, faster, stronger, in the words of Kanye. But yeah, how's
Daft
everybody
Punk.
doing?
Good.
That wasn't Daft Punk, that was Kanye.
Well, doesn't Daft Punk do a song like that too?
Superman.
Oh, they might, yeah.
Better and
they do.
faster. No, it's a Bionic Man. Better, stronger, faster. Kanye just was watching old reruns of the Bionic Man to come up with those lyrics.
He samples a
does.
lot.
Yeah.
He samples
Of course,
a lot.
back then, the Bionic Man, you guys have no idea what we're talking about, do you? Lee Majors, Bionic Man,
Nope.
Jamie Summers, Bionic Woman, no.
Sorry,
Right
I
over your
was
head.
born in the 90s.
It was actually called, the show on television was called The $6 Million Man, as if that was a great deal of money to transform a human being into a cyborg at the time.
I'm just going to use that excuse that you just gave for anything I don't know about.
Sorry, I was born in the
I
90s.
was born in the 90s.
There you go.
Yeah. Do you know how to do your taxes? Nah.
I was born in the 90s.
The 90s.
Do you know what a calculator is?
No.
I was born in the 90s.
Yeah, no.
No, that's when you do know what a calculator is, because now it's just on everyone's phone.
Ooh.
Yeah, those aren't phones.
Zing.
When
No?
you're using it as a calculator, what is it?
A calculator.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
It's a tool,
It's
everyone.
a paperweight when it's turned off.
Yeah. You
Geez.
get a t-shirt that just says that. It's no context.
No, I just have a T-shirt that says, if I'm just sitting on the couch, I'm a paperweight. No,
Just literally no context. It's a paperweight when it's turned off, and no one knows what that's about. You wear a t-shirt?
Ooh. Hey, look for it in our merch store soon.
$1 million ideas right here, up in the brain.
Up in the brain.
Come
We'll
out of
get
the
them
mouth.
out of the brain
Yeah.
onto, something other than the brain.
Yeah, well, after the $1 Million Man and us knowing what a calculator
$6
is.
million man.
Oh, $6 million. Oh, I thought it was $1 million.
$6 million. He had a bionic eye.
Well, you could
bionic
buy
legs, bionic arms.
He made a man for $6 million.
Exactly. Yeah, of course, all the youngsters out there have no idea what you're talking about either.
That's true. I am.
Yeah,
getting old.
we're
Austin
old.
Powers. Just think in the what's the viral reel right now?
There's a lot of
and the
them.
best part of my plan is no one can stop me. Isn't that the viral
No,
sound?
that's been around for a long time.
What's a reel?
Oh, God. Well, we were born in the 90s.
I'm sorry,
We don't know
I
what it
was
is.
born a little before the 90s.
Yeah.
Inverse the 9.
Well, speaking, everything's good. Everybody's week's doing well. I hope
Yeah.
your week is doing well. Listener, viewer, individual out there who is watching. There are about 60% of you who watch our videos and don't subscribe. So go ahead and subscribe. And I'll do some wonderful things for you.
Oh my goodness!
I said
Wow.
for you,
It's a
not
different
to you.
channel, and
Quite a promise.
yes, that is.
You're like, I'll pray for you if you
Yeah,
subscribe.
exactly.
Welcome to
Thoughts
ASMR.
and prayers.
Welcome to ASMR with the Wolf and Bull. I'm here to open, drink some alcohol for you. How does that make you feel?
Got to turn.
Should I jump into the monologue?
Turn the label the other
Should I
way.
do that? Should I go into the monologue?
Go for it.
Yeah, I'd go ahead and push down all my poop anxiety and go right into the monologue. I get anxious.
What?
I get anxious. I get anxious
Hey,
before we
we've
film.
actually just discovered something we didn't know.
Poop
about.
anxiety. It is a real thing.
What,
It's
like
real.
when you get ready to do your monologue, suddenly
Specifically,
you
the
have a
filming.
turtle head going on?
No. Just poop anxiety generally. I get excited and I'm like, this is gonna be a great episode. People gonna watch, they're gonna listen, and then I go, ooh, I could poop my anxiety away right now. I'm good right now. I'm good. I'm not drinking coffee. That's my cup. You used my cup.
You know, why is
How
it? Why,
Our cup.
why
You
can
did not
that-
sign a prenup, buddy.
Why can that be such an emotional experience as well? Yeah, I don't understand that entirely.
Well, this is not the genre or topic of our episode. That's on our other channel, Poop Talk with the Wolf and Bull. but
Popular channel.
Yeah, I bet it is.
We could start an OnlyFans Poop Talk.
That's when it gets really bad, folks. That's when you know it's desperation.
Oh,
Desperation move. Mode.
Well, I'm going to jump into the monologue. I'm old. I'm aging. My skin, my organs are oxidizing. My wrinkles are developing wrinkles. The bull is aware of that, and he's aware that with age comes the usage and the replacement of the adjective wise. We don't say old, we say wise when we're old. You don't have to exhibit any semblance of wisdom here in America. It's the 28th Amendment to just be wise as you age. You see, we're all old. Most of us have been through a pandemic, the first in over 100 years, oddly similar to the last one. That is the last thing I'll say on that topic. We've seen technology advance in ways once believed to be unthinkable. We've seen tech boats sink when they were once thought to be unsinkable. We've even had the luxury of witnessing Adam Levine's social image meltdown. What or who could be next? Being old comes with its perks. With age comes beauty. With beauty comes excuses. And with excuses comes age. The obligatory groan as you sit down or stand up. The dad sounds that almost everyone makes with age. Those are gifts. Gifts from the cycle of existence that we all have the luxury of experiencing through time. Time is a silly little grandiose thing that we as humans spend more and more time considering, or at least we should, as we age. The time spent with loved ones, is, if condensed down into singular moments, can accurately add up to have as many moments left with that person or persons if you don't see them often. So, say, for example, I see you once a year. I only have X amount of times to see you before you're gone. Time is the one constant in existence. A looming precipice of truth that no one can escape and no one can avoid. That is way too intense. It's impending, inevitable, and immovable so far. As Benjamin Franklin once said, time is the coin of your life. It is the only coin you have, and only you can determine how it will be spent. But is the concept of time even a real thing? We've broached this subject many times. And today, on the Wolf and Bull podcast, also known as the Dr. Seussical Spectacular, we'll dive into it once again. Is time even real? Is it? One fish, two fish? Red fish, blue fish?
I think the Seuss family is going to be contacting us shortly.
Wait. I know this is a heavy topic. Is time real?
Is it a topic that's heavy?
Well, I was going to branch off for a second and say, have you seen Dr. Seuss's house in La Jolla, California?
Yes,
No.
it's for sale.
I want it.
Good luck.
What is it, a giant top hat?
No, but that would be wonderful if it was.
Is that your
No.
subscriber
don't
pitch?
You guys actually
want the house.
looked at one time at a house that kind of was Dr. Seuss-like.
Oh, that house was so amazing.
That was an
too.
amazing house. It needed a lot of work.
Remember-
Don't you wish you'd have got that back then when it was
Yes.
only offered at whatever it was?
Wasn't it like
No, it was like at
8.
8.
It was 8. Yeah, I
something.
remember. It was
Yeah,
probably
it's probably
2
like
now.
2 something now.
we couldn't afford it then.
No.
We could maybe swing it
But
now.
you know what? Continue your monologues like that. Man, oh man, the sky's the limit. I love that monologue. That was awesome.
We need to get
And the music
I like the
was
background
great.
music. It felt like I was in Interstellar.
It is. I wanted to get up and groove, but
We
I
need
knew
to
if
get
I
the
got up, I would
teleprompter up.
probably make a groan or a
Yeah.
kind of an aged kind of sound.
We need to get the teleprompter up so I can stop looking at notes.
Yes, well, I know it's
all right.
It's right there. It's over there. Guys, it's over there.
We're going to
There,
have a teleprompter.
Well, why would you even
soon.
tell anybody that? Because people aren't supposed to know that you have one. I mean, look at our wonderful...
Secrets of the
You
trade.
think we're a news? No. We're real here on the Wolf and Bull. I'm real. Hi, I'm the Wolf. This is a real show. This is a real podcast. We experience
But it's
life.
already happened.
Has it?
It's already happened.
It
It's
depends
happening,
on-
and it will happen.
Your perception of time.
Some physicists will disagree with you,
And some physicists can be wrong.
and some can be right.
No, they're all wrong.
Science is an absolute, Mr. Wolf. Bull. Mr. Wolf.
Mr.
Wolf.
Woo! Or
The beer's getting to me. But yeah, time. We have talked about this
Time,
ad
time.
infinitum.
What's that song? Time. No.
You really, we need to upgrade the. Look, the puns work.
Look
the pun
what
work.
it's done to me.
The pun work is great. You're going up in the puns. You're like Albert Pun Holes, and you're really, really knocking it out of the park. You don't even know who that is.
Yeah, I do. It's
You do.
like-
She
he's
does.
at-
You have no idea who that is.
Did he hit number 700? No, he's at 601, I think.
He's
right?
close. Yeah, he's
Or
close.
701.
I
701.
can't remember, but he's doing well. So you're like him. You're getting better and better. Going down in the Pun Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but he's
The-
aged. He's aged now for
The
that.
references, almost all of them are
All
30,000 feet.
Well, I'm hoping to bring in. Well, see, this is the thing you got to understand. My crowd is more prevalent than your crowd. There
Excuse
are
me?
more of us.
Yeah.
Now we're croaking off right and
You
left.
guys still use
But they're
Yahoo.
more-
You guys still use Yahoo Hotmail.
Who doesn't? That's very cutting edge.
Cutting. I don't even
That's
know
not
how to
me.
log into my Hotmail account.
You
anymore.
have one?
I do.
What?
That's just that's
do.
like that's like
Oh, I do know
to
how.
retrieve all spam. That's
And you know
what-
why? Because I had to log into it recently because someone was trying to hack into it. And it's like I have the verification email on my one I use all the time. So it's like someone is trying to log in. Change your password. So I did change my password the other day. This is not on topic.
No, it's not. Time.
Everything is on topic. You know why?
Why?
Because it's all happened already.
Okay, well, a lot of people would disagree with that. A lot of philosophers and physicists would disagree
I
with
can
that.
see right now that the wolf and the bull are going to be at odds on this one.
I don't
can
necessarily
feel-
know
I
we'll
can
be at
smell it.
odds. I think we'll be, as in a lot of episodes, we'll be like complementary, ad adjacent. You know,
In
like,
other words, we're at odds.
no,
Yeah.
no.
I've been standing on my hill for what seems like an eternity.
And I'm at the bottom of the hill in a little
You're
burrow.
sneaking around in the woods.
No,
trying to-
foxes sneak.
All
No.
you're doing is waiting for the sick and the small and the ailed animals to cut them away from the herd, so that you can satiate your primal needs.
And
that sounds terrible.
That does really sound terrible. Well,
Me, I stand up there
No.
majestically on the hill,
No, you're
overlooking everything,
kind.
understanding that everything that's out there, everything that is, everything that will be, everything that was, is already happening.
you saying Jesus is a cow?
Where did that come
Bovine?
from?
You know everything? You just literally said everything.
No, I didn't say I know what it is. I said I know that it has happened, will happen, and is happening all at the same time.
Interesting side topic. Multiple universes. Cow Jesus? Bovine,
Okay,
bovine savior. I'm just saying that's an interesting topic there. That'd be a very creative.
well, the
South
cattle
Park
do
Avenue.
low.
That was a little. That was.
It was there.
It was there, but it was very. It
there.
It was highbrow.
It's almost Christmas. Come on,
yeah.
cattle are lowing. You know,
Mooing. So yeah, weird, strange start to this episode. Time is an incredibly complex topic. It really is. And there's a lot of disagreements on what exactly time is, but especially in physics. Now, the Bull and I have had multiple allusions to whether time exists or not.
illusions of an illusion.
Yeah, well, And many consider time an illusion, as the bull just said, cutting off my wonderful sentence that I put here in the notes. You wouldn't know they're in the notes if a teleprompter was there. I just haven't put it together yet. Now, some people consider time a figment of our imagination. Even the best-selling and somewhat misleading book, The Secret, doubted those questions as well. It considered time, in a lot of ways, as not real. Now, there's nothing relatively incorrect about that because we don't know for sure. It's a very open topic. Now, I think we should approach this from the state and understanding of physics, though. From two individuals who have no physics degrees. We are experts.
He has a geophysics degree.
I do.
You do have a geophysics degree. Mm-hmm. One of us has a physics degree. What we say here today is absolute. Now, granted, according to thoughtco.com and amongst some physicists, because it is kind of split on this, there is no real doubt that time does really, truly exist. According to that website and the individual who wrote it, who I will get to him in a second, he actually has some credibility. Time is measurable, and it's an observable phenomenon. Now, physicists are just divided on what causes this existence and what it means to say that it exists. Quantum physicist and Anglican priest... No, not Anglican. Anglican. Priest John Polkinghorne, I love that last name. I am Mr. Polkinghorne. I'm here to deliver your pizza. Believes the flow of time and direction of time are both real and relentless. He also is, the adjectives he picks are also intimidating and scary. It is a mistaken argument, in quotes, he said, to use relativity to assert that time is an illusion, because no observer has knowledge of a distant event or the simultaneity of different events until they are unambiguously in that observer's past. And therefore, that argument focuses on the way observers organize their description of the past and cannot establish the reality of the awaiting future. We live in a world of unfolding and becoming. Now, Perimeter Institute theoretical physicist Fotini Markopoulou Calamara said, I have the distressing, this person's completely made up, I have the distressing experience of physicists telling me that time is not real. It confuses me because time seems to be real. Things happen. When I clap my hands, it happened. I would prefer to say that general relativity is not the final theory than to say that time does not exist. Considering the complexity of the subject, the discussion of time and the question associated borders the realm of metaphysics and ontology, which is the philosophy of existence, for those of us who are not ontologists. In addition to bordering the strictly empirical in relation to questions about time that physics can address. So it's a very complex topic, a very confusing topic in a lot of ways, because it also depends on how we utilize the term. Most of us would discuss time in relation to something that would seem concrete, right? Like, I don't have a lot of time left.
Interestingly, though, I like that you use the word, people think of it in terms of something real or concrete, because I think that's actually part of the underlying misnomer of the whole idea of time in general, because I think that we at least should all agree that time is a construct. And I know that you're saying some people believe it's empirically testable and real. Well, it's real within the context of our form of quote unquote existence. So, a lot of people believe time is linear. Okay, there's a lot of people that are very much thought leaders that it's circular, that it's a cycle, or that it's multifaceted, more like a dendritic tree branch or root that can go off in every possible conceivable direction depending on what you do as an observer and a participant in this thing we call reality at any given moment. So every decision we make changes, quote unquote, the timeline. So the question of time being concrete is absolutely false in terms of what's ahead of us. There is nothing concrete about what is ahead of us if it is determined, not predetermined, but determined by an observer and a participant in the quote-unquote immediate reality. Mm-hmm. The trouble with talking about it in terms of concrete and immediate reality is that as we talk about reality, it already becomes past. The immediate becomes past. The present becomes past. The present is never really there except for a indescribable, infinitesimal moment.
And on Christmas.
It's kind of like we talked last thing on Christmas.
Yeah.
Sorry, I blew right by that joke. I apologize.
That was a good one.
But it's kind of like Christmas. Now you got me thinking about Christmas. No, we talked about you talked about a cycle a minute ago, and we talked about in the last episode, I believe, something about a circle. And you're talking about pi and how, from a mathematical point of view, it has never been determined down to its infinitesimal number. Well, it's the same kind of thinking along this lines. If you think about what's behind you, we can look at that and register that through our memory and through the memories of others, from a more holistic point of view or from an individual point of view. So those are things that, quote unquote, have happened.
Yeah.
Okay. We can forecast what might happen based on previous histories or what we believe can happen, but it's undetermined. And so that moment in the middle, you have pointer going in both directions, forward and backward. You've got a concrete pointer backward that says these things have physically happened because we have physical memories of those things happening. Forward, we have this infinitesimal possible future. Harry Seldon, going back to the Foundation trilogy, right?
Yeah.
It's all probability. And then you have a moment in time that is undeterminable because it's like finding the end point of pi. You can't get that small. You see what I'm saying?
I do. I think, again, it's a really hard subject to wrap one's mind around, just because it involves you removing yourself from.
Isn't that
in a
what the
lot of
scientific
ways
method really has to be in this case?
Well, but here's the thing: the measurable aspect is difficult. Now, granted, I'm going to go into some things shortly that will talk about how time actually is measurable based on the second law of thermodynamics, which I thought was really interesting because I had never thought about it that way before. And this brings us all the way back to our very, very early episode about entropy, which wasn't really about entropy. It was more of like utilizing that word for coined term for society, but I do think it was an interesting episode, so go listen to it. But no, I definitely think that it's a difficult topic to approach because it's almost like you have to take your brain apart and then put it back together, and then down a whole bottle of wine, and then take your brain apart again, and then put it back together in order to really kind of grasp what the concept we're talking about is. Because there's that subject topic of time where you and I talk about it flippantly. And then there's the actual concrete topic of time in which we can actually utilize that to measure things via space-time, stuff like that, which I think...
measurement of almost anything has to do with time.
It does.
If we wouldn't have created something called time, we wouldn't be able to measure almost anything.
Well, now, this is a good segue. So this brings up the topic of the arrow of time and entropy. Now... I'm going to go ahead and check that. Originally coined by Sir Arthur Eddington in his 1928 book, The Nature of the Physical World, the arrow of time is the idea that time flows only in one direction, as opposed to dimensions of space that have no preferred orientation. Eddington observed that the arrow of time is one of three things, or actually normally includes all three things, is vividly recognized by consciousness, is equally insisted on by our reasoning faculty, which tells us that a reversal of the arrow would render the external world nonsensical, makes no appearance in physical science except in the study of the organization of a number of individuals. Here, specifically, the arrow indicates the direction of progressive increase of random element. The third point is especially important in that it captures the physics of time's arrow, according to thought.co.com. Math and physics expert, this article I was talking about, who wrote this particular article, he has a MS in mathematics education at Indiana University and a BA in physics from Wabash College, and I forgot to put down his name, so he is an individual who is nameless. The arrow of time points in the direction of increasing entropy per the second law of thermodynamics. Usable energy is inevitably used for productivity, growth, and repair. In the second law of thermodynamics, usable energy is converted into unusable energy, thus rendering usable energy as irretrievably lost in the form of unusable energy. Entropy is merely a measure of unusable energy within a closed or isolated system, quote-unquote, the universe is a great example. As usable energy decreases, the and unusable energy increases, entropy increases. Entropy is also a gauge of randomness or chaos within a closed system. As usable energy is irretrievably lost, disorganization, randomness, and chaos increase, which is from allaboutscience.org. In short, things in our universe inevitably decay as a course of natural time-based processes. They don't magically regain universal order without a sufficient amount of work. Most of the time not most of the time, but some of the time that is artificial. Most of the time it's not. It's irretrievable. So the laws of physics are time reversible, though, which makes this a little confusing. Basically, that means that the laws look as though they would work if the universe were to play in reverse. There's technically no reason why the arrow of time is required to move forward by necessity. It's just kind of based on Mr. Edwards' analysis is just kind of how it is. According to our current understanding, though, the universe in the very distant past has a high degree of order or low entropy. Due to what would be considered this boundary condition, quote unquote, the natural laws dictate that entropy is continuously increasing. So based off that understanding, that makes time a relatively concrete thing. Doesn't necessarily mean that it is something that is tangible. It just means that it is a actual observable phenomena. Even if we, say for example, weren't there, stars would still go out. Obviously, there's that whole topic we've discussed in which if a human doesn't witness it, does it really happen? That's
if a tree falls in the forest, doesn't make a noise.
There's that, yes. So this is a kind of confusing topic, but it is an interesting one in my opinion.
It's a topic that always lends itself to the prescription of your perception of things from your observational element, right? If from your stance in the world, looking out at the universe and describing it from your point of view, it's almost a necessary element to describing the fact that there is or is not time. Now, interesting, there's a lot to unpack in that description of elements that you brought together there. And, one thing I always think about is, you've said concrete a number of times, which makes everyone believe that something is sturdy and something is solid.
Tangible is probably a better word. Probably.
Same, sturdy and solid.
Or
something you can reach out and grasp. Okay.
Graspable.
Grasp. Yeah. And if you think about some of the physics of how time is described and why and how it is conflated with space and time together, and I believe you'll get into this a little later as well. Think about yourself. Put yourself in two places at one time. Forget the fact that there's strange entanglement issues with quantum physics.
Spooky.
And things. Exactly. But if you're sitting here on Earth and you're going through the passage of your life, it's taking you a certain amount of time, a certain number of revolutions of the Earth, a certain number of times around the sun, a certain number of times that our galaxy goes in through space at whatever speed it's moving, away from the Big Bang. Things like that are all part of that equation. Mm-hmm. Now, if you place yourself at the same moment, what we describe as a moment, at the same data point in the current collage of what we call the history of our universe, you put yourself here and you put yourself on the edge of a black hole. And you monitor yourself, your observation from both places. You're the same person. You will live two different lengths. You will not know that. You will feel like you're moving through quote unquote time at the same speed. Mm-hmm. But in relativity to each other, you're thousands of years apart. By the time you're
this is like the interstellar effect. I know we mentioned that the music you were playing in the monologue was like interstellar, or I said that. But in that movie, that's the whole point, right? He steps off a spaceship. He's down there for it's like 10 minutes, but it's equivalent to being gone for like 8 years or something like that.
Every once in a while,
8
when you
Earth
step
years.
off of a spaceship, you take a look at your Lincoln and you realize that maybe you left your oven on at home. Did the cookies finish baking, or did your wife forget to take them out? I'm doing a terrible Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, that's a great Matthew McConaughey. But then you
bad.
realize when you step off the spaceship that it was 8 years ago that you forgot to turn off the stove.
So their house burnt down, and the insurance gave up on trying to.
Dear God,
it's arson. You've got a warrant out for your arrest.
Exactly.
Lots has happened since you got off that spaceship.
Well, it's
did my wife leave me? Did my kids pass away?
It's the old conundrum about...
Did I pay my payment of $485 per month on my New Lincoln?
That's a
These are
great
questions.
car
I was gonna say,
payment.
can you give me that payment?
Yeah, it's a great car payment on a Lincoln.
I'm Matthew McConaughey. I don't have a credit score. My name is my credit score.
Maybe.
That's why you should buy the new Lincoln Explorer. I don't even know if that's a Lincoln.
No, it's
Lincoln,
not.
Lincoln Explorer?
Lincoln,
No.
buy the new Lincoln Entrepreneur.
the new Lincoln Time Machine.
buy the buy the new Lincoln Event Horizon. It's a great car. It's
That's
a very
a
great
good
car.
name. Hey, that's a good EV name right
The
there.
Event Horizon.
So could you measure
Event
things by
horizon.
not time, but like Earth-defined time?
Well, my point is you measure everything by your location and your observation of the reality around you.
Well,
So he's
right,
making
so
the
like,
this is an argument for the construction of time.
He's making the relativity argument, which there's merit to it. I don't think that
Me
it's
and
incorrect.
Einstein are like bros,
Yeah, well,
man.
here's the thing: is I don't necessarily think that fundamentally theory. I don't think that theory of relativity fundamentally disproves the existence of time. I think that I see this whole thing, as I've said before, as time.
I'm not arguing
time's
that
a
time
circle.
does not exist.
Time's, I know, and I don't think that
Okay.
you are. Time's a circle, but I do think that there is a substance of merit to what that entity is.
How does anybody say that? You can measure the weight of an atom.
Well, if time
Yeah.
doesn't,
Nobody can measure
Yeah,
anything
but-
about time except its
yeah, they can. Of course, they can
occurrence.
through entropy. If
No.
time doesn't,
What is entropy?
If time, it's
Did
decay.
you hear that?
It's
Decay.
decay.
Okay,
So
no,
wait,
well, time out a
you're,
second.
hey, wait, hey,
You're-
pal, I'm making a disagreement here, and you're interrupting. Wait a sec.
Oh, we
wait a
never
second.
interrupt
Yeah,
each
no
other, do we?
interrupting. I'm turning.
Hold it. Alert, no interruption zone.
Every
Okay.
once in a while.
Go ahead, Wolf.
Every once in a while, when you buy
Poor
Lincoln,
Bale over
and you
here, permanently interrupted by both of us all the time.
You open the door to a Lincoln. You get out of the car.
See,
You're in
he's
downtown LA.
he's not even going to remember his point.
No,
at
I
this
do
point.
remember my point. So, without time, the second law of thermodynamics can't operate.
Without time, no law of something that watches an occurrence happen would work.
So,
None.
With that being said, I think there is plausibility to the fact that it could be a measurable occurrence.
It is measurable.
so-
Nobody's arguing whether it's measurable or not.
Well, I think, but saying
What
it's
I'm
an
arguing-
illusion or doesn't
No,
exist.
I didn't say it doesn't
I'm not
exist.
saying you
I didn't
did.
say
I'm
it's
saying some
illusion.
people
I said
do.
the existence is in our own framework. It's a construct.
Maybe.
It is.
Maybe.
It is. Mathematics is a construct. Mathematics is not some solid object, is it?
You know what else is a construct?
Oh, God.
My $485 payment for my Lincoln Engineer.
You're an engineer?
It's my car name.
The engineer? I like the time traveler. Whatever
The Event
you just said,
Horizon.
the Event
Yeah, well, I
Horizon.
traded that in for a higher
The
payment.
Lincoln Event Horizon. They would make some buku bucks on that.
Are you tired of your everyday life? Have you
No.
run out of time? Buy the new Lincoln Entrepreneur. It's just stupid. I'm entertaining myself. Look,
What you're basically saying, what this guy basically said, is that there is a conversion that occurs because of the laws of thermodynamics. Inversion occurs between energy that is useful
And
into energy that is non-useful.
unusable, yes.
Not useful.
Unusable.
I said usable versus non-usable. Now, let's unpack that for a moment, please.
Big
Let's
brain
unpack
bowl.
that.
Big brain bowls coming out.
We all believe within the framework of our understanding of the universe that energy is only converted. Correct? Do we all believe that?
We do.
Okay, that's one of the first laws of something. I don't even remember, Mr. Geophysics that I am. But my whole point is things change, but that doesn't mean they're not usable. He's defining it as unusable. You talked about the I forget the word you used. It was a beginning state, or what did you say? Something parameter state, or something like that.
Oh, I know what it is. Go ahead and just find it.
Yeah, you'll
A boundary condition.
Thank you. A boundary condition. Well, the boundary condition is kind of determined as a state of full entropy, right? Mm-hmm. Where things are very simplistic. And then when something starts to occur, when we apply this construct called time to it, things start to happen. whether we're talking about the Big Bang or just the movement of a car or whatever. So there's an energy usage, there's a loss of that, a conversion from what this guy says is usable to unusable. What that really is a conversion from simple to complex. That's really what it is.
Well,
and
it's
which
a
a lot of people
conversion
define
from-
as chaos, but chaos is only defined as chaos until people figure it out.
Well, it's a
then they just
conversion
call it complexity.
from order to entropy back to order. If everything is fully, if say entropy becomes, so
If it's
decay
cyclical.
becomes entropy, which I think it is, then there's natural order, which would insist, based off of that law of thermodynamics, that time is a facet of that. Now, the reason...
The measurement of it is time. Has to be applied.
Sure.
But let's go back to this for a second, because it's a brain bender, and I understand that. But from my position...
Got to bend it like Beckham.
That's right.
That's right. Now you're going back.
barely
and most
remember that
people-
movie.
I never saw it, so it was before my time.
Every once in a
After
while.
my time,
On a Tuesday night when
God,
I'm
here we go.
watching Bend It Like Beckham with myself, because I don't have any friends.
shit. Not sure where that was going.
I look out my window and I see my Lincoln.
My Lincoln Time Horizon sitting out there, and then
Event
it flashes
Horizon.
out.
The
of existence.
Time Horizon. the new-
Event Horizon.
No, it's the next
Next
version.
version.
The Time Horizon, sitting in my parking lot. Full parking lot. I bought a Walmart for this. Glistens
Just so I
underneath.
could have a parking lot where I didn't run into anybody.
I don't want to run into myself. It's so big I can't see any mirrors anywhere. So
Well, if you believe string theory, then there's a lot of yourselves out there.
yeah, more than one Matthew McConaughey would result in the end of all time.
This is all Interstellar. That movie blew my mind
It's a
the
great
first
movie.
time I saw it.
Yeah, it's a really great movie. I haven't
Also
seen it in a
made
long
me
time.
cry like
this-
an infant.
This oftentimes goes back to kind of what we were talking about a week or two ago, because there's all these questions that occur, and there, no matter what the question is, there's always something at the end of the very last question that is, at this moment in time, undeterminable. And as human beings, we have to fill that with something. Our need, our insatiable need as human beings, is to fill every question with some kind of answer. And you know what we fill all those questions with? Forever and have been forever?
Anxiety poops.
Wow.
Time. That's what we fill it with.
Same difference.
Yeah, we talked about this before. There's all these wonderful mathematical equations that solve all these problems, all these thought challenges and things like that. They always end with one thing, or begin with it. Everything is determined by the change in whatever it is over time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what is event. That's what we're talking about. So what we're talking about is individual data points that are hooked together. That construction, that chain we construct, is what we call time.
Yeah, well, and I think that there's an aspect of that, as we've said, that to some groups of physicists is very much real, and to some groups of physicists is a complete illusion. Now, there are frequent observations in that lane, all the way back. Going to go back to The Secret, and they posited this over, multiple times, pun intended.
Wait, have you read that book?
No, I have
A
not.
long time ago.
It's very interesting.
It's I have a lot of criticisms of it. I know the premise, but I have a lot of criticisms. The authors suggested that physicists had proven that time does not exist.
You
They
know,
actually
Matthew
suggested
McConaughey
that.
actually read that book.
Of course, I did, as I created the design and the aerodynamic principles of the new Event Horizon Lincoln. So basically the Secret suggested that time is just an illusion, and they suggested that Einstein told us that. They also suggested that what quantum physicists and Einstein tell us is that everything is happening simultaneously. There is no time for the universe, and there is no size for the universe. Now, there are some people who would disagree with this, from the physicists category and area, as well as there would be a lot of people who support that and agree with it. Per thoughtco.com, and the reason I'm utilizing this is because I think this is one of those topics of debate and discussion in science, which is either all the way one way or not at all the other way. And that tells me that there's probably a little bit more truth to it on both ends than some would suggest. The very linear concept of time is tied into the concept of the second law of thermodynamics, which is seen by many physicists as one of the most important laws in all of physics. Without time as a real property of the universe, the second law becomes meaningless. Einstein proved through his theory of relativity that time by itself was not an absolute quantity. Rather, time and space are tied in a very precise way to form space-time, and this space-time is an absolute measure that can be used, again, in a very precise mathematical way, to determine how different physical processes in different locations interact with each other. This does not mean that everything is happening simultaneously, however. In fact, Einstein firmly believed, based on the evidence of his equations such as E equals mc squared, that no information can travel faster than the speed of light. Every point in space-time is limited in the way that it can communicate with other regions of space-time. The idea that everything happens simultaneously is exactly counter to the results that Einstein developed, supposedly based off this person's interpretation of this. Currently, physicists and philosophers do not have a complete, quote-unquote, understanding of time, but that does not mean that it does not exist or is an unreal concept. So I think that's where people get a little tied up, people being physicists. I think that there is this absolutism that has become popular as of late in the scientific community, and I think that's what this struggles with. I think it could be both. I think it could be a relatively measurable quantity, not an absolute one, but a measurable quantity, but also potentially, in certain circumstances, an illusion.
See, I think it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat. Mm-hmm. You know, it's measurable if you're inside the box. It's not if you're out. And that's kind of the way that's kind of the way I feel about it, because you know me, I've talked about this enough times that you guys understand it, that I believe this is a construction that we create. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's false either.
No, it's in between.
I think it's a requirement for us to actually exist at all, except as moments. So our consciousness itself, kind of to bridge what, and you can talk about the philosophy of why we are conscious and why we're not and all those kinds of things. But I believe consciousness itself is a registration, an understanding of a progression of data. It understands when this thing occurs because it's created the when to define it. Because if you don't create time to define it, then all you are is a moment that happens all at the same time.
Which is chaotic.
But as we know, if you've read much about chaos theory and et cetera, is that chaos really isn't chaos if you pull far away from it enough to view it a certain way. There are patterns in everything. That's the
question is, how far away would you have to pull? I mean,
does it matter?
Well, I think it does for an observable point.
Einstein said nothing can communicate beyond the speed of light. Mm-hmm. Okay, but if you talk about this big,
which could be wrong, by the way, that could eventually become wrong.
It is a theory.
Well, theory in science means
a lot of people believe that to go on the speed of light, you're not actually going beyond the speed of light. You're punching through certain segments of reality to meet yourself at another, like we were talking about that time thing earlier. So who knows what our brains will come up with in the future? It's almost unlimited, but. Einstein said there's no way to communicate faster than the speed of time through these distances.
Speed of light.
Speed of light. Sorry, thank you. But
faster than the speed of time.
If you actually pull the concept of time out of a conversation about our universe, if suddenly you could back off and you were a god and looking at the universe just went boosh, okay, would you see it from start to finish? Supposedly God does.
I mean, well,
so but think about the reason you could.
Yeah,
the reason you could is because there is no time.
Sure,
all you are is registering everything that ever happened and ever will happen, and that means the things that the only things in history that are concrete is from the individual standpoint of having it had happened to them.
Wouldn't you say, though, based off of biblical writings, that they're for the understanding of humans, if we're going to take this from a biblical perspective, that there was a designation of time for humans. Degree. Well, in the beginning,
humans.
I understand that. So if it's for humans, then I have to understand that there's some applicable nature.
The applicable
to
nature
the entity
is when
of what would be God.
God said to humans, go ahead and exist, which means I'm helping you create this time.
Yeah, but again, that the principle of that would mean that in the very beginning, that time was a construct that he had already been aware of, right?
No, he created it all according to. I mean, I'm not getting into the
no,
religious
yeah, we're
aspect
not.
of
Yeah, I
this,
don't
but-
want to. I'm just
but-
saying that just from a thought experiment. If I say that I'm going to create something for you, I would have had to have known of the existence of it beforehand, and thus
it would have already
utilized
been
what,
there. So to give whatever's already there sentience, you have to allow for that thing, human beings, to understand it's within the big slew of all these data points that have always happened and always will happen. There's this frame of data.
My shoe is untying itself.
What is
Did you hear
that?
It's my shoe.
That was.
Oh, my God.
He's got robot shoes on.
Wolf Paul.
I'm part robot.
He's the $6 million man.
As you were saying, good sir.
That's okay. This is funnier. He doesn't know what he's going to say yet, but is he going to do
It's
a Lee
hard.
Majors or
It's real hard being a robot.
real hard
being
being a robo?
Part man, part Lincoln.
Part wolf.
I'm a Lincoln Wolf man hybrid. My bottom half is Lincoln. My middle half is Wolf. My head, part of it, is human. Somewhere in there's a robot, and the very top of my head is the windshield end where the aerodynamics of the Lincoln coming through. Makes me very fast. Makes me very sleek. It also makes my existence very confusing.
You notice how he's always taking his car and heading off toward the sunset for some
Well,
reason.
I
Why
don't,
is
does
that?
he even do Lincoln anymore? I don't think he does.
I don't think he does. It's just
I just love that. Like
iconic, you know,
sometimes you
ironic and iconic.
got to be first to be last. Like it's like okay. Some marketing dev dude was like high on shrooms when he wrote it. First,
Probably.
got to be first to
But
be
it's
last.
memorable. Isn't that all you ever want from
It's only memorable because of Matthew McConaughey. I mean,
No.
you
there-
got Rosie O'Donnell doing that.
there are commercials. We should do something about the commercialization, and there's a lot of marketing stuff that goes on that's very interesting to look into about why people arrange things in casinos or in malls.
Oh, I love that
Those
stuff.
are some very interesting
You
stuff.
wanna
But-
do the notes
but
there, pal?
But the thing about
Sounds
ads
fun.
in general is there are two type of ads. The ones you remember, the person or funny scene or whatever it is, and there's others that you remember both that and the product. And the ones that you remember both are the ones that are iconic. That.
I will
You remember
never,
McConaughey and Lincoln at the same
Ever,
time.
knock on wood, ever buy a Lincoln. Ever.
Well, that's beside the point.
Wasted money.
That's
Wasted.
beside the point. You got people out there right now, the throngs of people that are listening and watching you this very moment, have now subliminally thought to themselves,
Maybe I should get a
Wolf
Lincoln.
loves Lincoln.
Yeah, maybe I should. Get
I
a
could be like Matthew McConaughey
Yeah.
or the Wolf.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get me a Lincoln.
So I was just reading Blink, or not Blink,
Yeah,
The Tipping
The
Point,
Tipping Point.
by Malcolm Gladwell. And he talks about in that book all about the marketing done specifically for Sesame Street and Blue's Clues. And it's very interesting because
you're the
the smallest things make the biggest difference. Same with,
Mailbox.
Bert, what are you doing?
yeah. No, I'm
How do
thinking
we both know those?
he had a
Kermit.
whole chapter all about, I can't remember the name of the brand. Ooh, that's not good. They fell off, but it was a shoe brand that was really popular in the
Toms.
90s. No.
Reebok.
No.
Uh,
Their whole advertising thing was they'd have weird pictures of like someone tying a shoelace into their hair.
wow, I can see why they didn't last. Well, that's
No, the point was that's when they got really big, and
Uh-huh.
then they threw away all those marketing gimmicks.
Mm.
What was it?
spaghetti companies should do
Air
that.
Max? No.
Someone
Well,
making
all I know is
I don't
that it's
remember.
already happened and it
Yeah.
already will happen.
Well, I think the whole premise, I guess, of my point of observing this opinion from this specific physicist and some other physicists in his industry of time being actually measurable, not a complete illusion, is being open to the fact that it's not entirely an impossibility. Now, Lee Smolin, he wrote a book in 2013 called Time Reborn, From the Crisis in Physics to the Future of the Universe. What a wonderful name. He argued that science treats time as an illusion. He argued that we should treat time as a fundamentally real quantity, and if we take it seriously as such, we will uncover laws of physics that evolve over time. Now, the bull obviously doesn't agree with that.
I just
'cause
don't know how somebody
he's
can
set in his ways.
No, it's not that. I just don't know how somebody can use such concrete terms for something that's so loosely defined.
Just because he wants to sell a book.
Exactly.
But again, scientists say that as well by saying something's an illusion. That's a concrete definition.
I'm not saying either.
I'm not saying you are. I'm saying the scientific community does. You do have a geophysicist degree. Are you a scientist?
Apparently.
Maybe.
Apparently, I've got
I'm
an
a
official
scientist.
certificate that says I'm a
True.
scientist.
Official.
Wow, I never even thought about that.
You should use
Everybody
that.
should start to listen to me more.
Yeah, you should use that. You should. I'm a scientist. You should.
Yes, we have a scientist on today again. Oh, it's me.
Yes.
The bull.
We have our resident scientist. So this has yet to result in any new insights into the foundations of physics, but that doesn't mean it's an impossibility. And I think that's a viable observation. There's also a popular quote going around the internet that's supposedly from Einstein, stating that the only reason for time is so that everything doesn't happen all at once. That's actually not from him. Never said it once. There's no evidence
I
that he said
believe
it.
you. I'm just saying, I like the statement, though.
It's a great statement, but it's actually from science fiction writer Ray Cummings. So, internet's a dangerous place. Don't believe everything on it. Again, though, to clarify, this is still a hotly debated topic of discussion amongst physicists, and there are many that take the side that time isn't real, which we will talk about in just a second. But yeah, it's
it's funny because I take this position that it's absolutely real, but my definition of what's real is from the context of
Being
me.
here on Earth and where you're standing
Thank
and
you very
sitting
much.
and yeah.
Going back to my premise earlier that we were talking about from what was Matthew's movie?
Interstellar.
Lincoln.
Which is a fun movie, and there's a lot of really brain-bending things that physicists and especially astrophysicists can give you that create probably amongst most people the feeling that everything's just an illusion, not just time. Once you start thinking of how convoluted everything is,
I think they do it on purpose. I think they do it on purpose.
Well,
I think they sit down and they say
they don't know.
Well, that too, but I also think there's like an active move on behalf of individuals who know a lot to say a lot of things that normies can't keep up with, us being normies.
I think that's
they
true
do that
in almost
purposefully as like an elitism type thing.
Look, everybody has to take a position to defend where they are at in life. You talked at the very beginning in the monologue about getting older and the moans and groans and the wisdom thing. Wisdom's bullshit.
Yeah.
Wisdom's a bunch of stuff that happened to somebody and you made some decisions, mostly bad, because most people make bad decisions most of their life, to look back and say, I've become wise now.
Experience plus luck plus narcissism.
I think the narcissism is a component of this, because if you defend your position as an elite in whatever subject you believe you're elite in, because we all have them. Some of us have multiple subjects. And if you're a bull on a hill overlooking the world and understanding from my point of view that I'm always right 60% of the time.
You are an elite
then
scholar.
I'm an elite scholarly bull scientist.
Would a bull be aware that it has mad cow disease?
No, not if he's mad. I've got happy cow disease, though. Actually, not cow. That would be different. It's cattle, mad cattle disease. I'm a bull, not a cow.
Where are we going?
Unless I want to be defined as one. Yeah. That's totally different.
You're going to identify as a cat? So, yeah, I don't...
I had some salient point that once again...
People who are elitists.
But you have to defend your position.
They don't drive a
And
Lincoln.
I know people in all walks of life that defend... I've told this story many times, and I'll give you the I was going to say Reader's Digest version, but nobody knows what Reader's Digest is other than me.
That's a magazine.
It was.
Those don't
It was
exist.
simplified long stories into shorter form
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yeah, when people read.
So when an old boomer like me says, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, they mean the simpler, shorter story, which for a boomer is usually 20 minutes long instead of 30.
25 minutes.
Rude.
Okay, for that, I'm going to slow down my process now. No. The whole point is I remember this is when I was a teenager, bagging freaking groceries, man.
They have those here. That's something that we noticed. They actually have people working at grocery stores here.
I was bagging groceries when plastic bags came into thing, and everybody thought everyone was going to save the planet because we were going to not knock down all the trees to create paper bags, but we were going to use plastic from that wonderful product we called petroleum,
Yeah.
which we make literally everything out of, right?
Yeah. Trees aren't renewable.
I've lived long enough to watch that whole thing go full circle and reverse itself. But there was a gal that was a cashier that had been a cashier for at least 150 years.
Nancy Pelosi.
I remember her name and everything. Matter of fact, she had, this was back in Michigan in the winter, and she had a tan like you wouldn't believe. And this was, there's no really tanning beds back then or anything like that. So I'm not sure how she got so tan.
A lot of anxiety
She
poops.
was mad at me all the time. I was the nicest young bag boy helping people out, grabbing the carts in the snowy outdoors, and I used to get like 50 of them long and move them into. We didn't have automatic cart haulers or any of that shit. We put them all together.
He was a troublemaker.
We slid them across. We maneuvered in between cars and hope we didn't hit them. Anyways, we get back to this. Get back to the story. As you said, I'm almost at 25 minutes.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
The gal, she decided not to like me. And decided to always raise herself above me somehow because she was the cashier and she knew better on every freaking SKU in the store and knew all this stuff. And you know what? I remember talking to people that I worked with going, why does Rayanne hate me so much?
libel.
Name drop.
I got a feeling that she hasn't. I think her time has run out by now.
Oh my God.
She had to be 50, and that was 50 years ago.
Oh yeah. Well,
So
Maybe she's doing great.
if not, well, here's the end of the story. I killed her with niceness. No,
I killed her.
I can't believe you paused like that.
did I pause? No, I think
Here's the end of that story. I killed her with kindness.
apparently with 40 carts running. No,
How to
I killed her.
incriminate yourself in 2 easy steps. A book by the bowl.
I named the person and then I said I killed her.
I suspected she
I killed her
her
with
with
kindness.
kindness.
her
Thank you very
time
much.
ran out.
Got it. Killed her
But
with
I
kindness.
killed her
Yeah.
with kindness.
My point is by
Oh
the
my
time
God.
by the time a few months had gone by, she was my best friend.
She brown nosed her.
Actually, no.
Okay, that's good.
I pulled her aside and we had a conversation.
Hey,
and
Rayanne.
You're
being a real bitch.
I was 15 or 16 at the
They're like,
time.
why are you being mean?
You're
to
being a
me?
meanie.
I did. I cried. No, I
You
didn't.
big old meanie.
I cried and I said, "Hey, can you teach me what you know?"
Oh my God.
That's what I did. I know you hate that
Can
about
you
me,
teach
but that's,
me-
that's
No.
always been the way I am.
No, he's just going into
Teach
the gutter.
me the
is what he's
ways
doing.
of cashiering. Please teach me about the SKUs.
How did your fingers get so nimble on that cash register?
Let me tell you, you little boy.
You are terrible. You are just terrible. Everything
You
just
are both
swoops
You
right
want
into the
some
gutter.
cookies? So
My
what's
whole
yeah,
point
your point
is
you killed her.
I killed her.
Kindness.
I killed her. Everybody that knows something likes to be able to inform themselves that in some way, shape, or another, they are better than or have in part of their existence.
Yeah.
They have something not only to contribute, but something that they internally can recognize themselves as being better at.
And don't you think that
And I
that
think
is
that's
a
important to people's ego. It's narcissistic in a way.
but
for
don't you
sure,
think it's an incredible weakness? Because if you walk into it, if
It
you walk
certainly
into
is.
in which could lead people to be more wrong than right.
I don't disagree with that at all.
So?
I'm saying what people do is they take these hardline positions for the support of their own internal psyche or the baggage they carry or the fact that they're too
if
tan
you're a
and they're
thought leader-
cashier at 60 years old at a small market in a town that I'm not going to describe because I've already given too much description already. And
If you're a thought leader, I think that it is your duty as being a thought leader to be objective to all possibilities of something. Not in the
notice
sense of
who are
critiquing.
the thought leaders you listen to? Don't name them, but some of the thought leaders you actually listen to are the ones that are so introspective.
Sure.
And they have a self-effacing nature that kind of tells you that they know a hell of a lot, but they're not going to lord that over you.
Which is why I think that in the topic of time, in the topic of excuse me, the beers are getting to me.
Dang.
In the topic of absolutism, And the proclivity that some individuals have for being so adamantly against something, be it like our discussion a few episodes ago, be it anti-religious or anti-scientific or anti-time, saying everything's an illusion. I think that there is, by nature of having that aspect of slight narcissism, which is a human quality, I think there is almost a pitfall that a lot of these individuals fall into, in which they make statements about something that could be true, but they make them in such a way that if it's not true, you look like a fool.
Okay. What is it, Bael, that I've told you to always remember when you're saying things to others from the day you could understand what I was saying?
Know your audience.
You got it. And there's multiple reasons for doing that. As a young child in school, you know your audience because the goal is to have good grades and get through school. So you know your audience, and if your audience is the person grading your paper, that's who you have to understand. You're trying to satisfy their view of you as an academician of some kind. That's the whole goal.
You have to play into their bias so they don't brainwash you.
You can say it a whole bunch of different ways. Now, if you know a subject so much greater than the person trying to teach you that subject, then I don't think there's anything wrong with developing a relationship with that person and showing them that you're a student with acumen above and beyond the norm. You don't do that, to your point, in front of people.
No.
Right? Because all you're doing is setting up a psychological
you set up a psychological wall, but you also set up a pitfall for yourself. So I've heard, I think a good example is Bill Nye the Science Guy, right? Everybody here has seen him. Everybody watching has seen him. He's a very intelligent individual, has a lot of credibility, understands what he's talking about. I also think he has a habit of sometimes falling into that pitfall, just like a lot of people who have a high level of intelligence. They know so much that they dare not question that they may not know something. And I think that that's a problem, because what it does is it closes off the scientific community from exploring avenues, such as this Lee Smolin guy said, of areas where we could actually discover something much faster if we weren't so shut off by it. Imagine, say the James Webb actually discovers that the Big Bang Theory never happened. You think people in the scientific community will actually say that it didn't? You think they will? You think they'll stick to their dogma?
Well, if you read a lot about quote-unquote science history, especially over the last 100 years with the advent of a lot of the things that Einstein decided to make public, it was his view and was views of others that came before him that he refined and gave detail to. But since then, everybody has taken his premises and built upon them. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the first 4-minute mile.
Yeah.
Roger Bannister ran that first 4-minute mile in 1961 or something like that. I don't remember the exact date. But the moment he did it, literally all the athletes started to do it.
Because they learned what he did.
It wasn't a physical barrier, it was a psychological one. So it's partly because of that. It's partly because of people needing, as you said a moment ago, you have to open yourself up to the possibility of possibilities. Yeah. You have to open yourself up to the idea that scientific nature is always trying to progress something further. And we go down the wrong paths all the time. We can look at recent history and see a lot of that, of course. Mm-hmm. But we won't discuss that. That's for a different podcast.
Yeah.
But I think we're all kind of on the same page with this, really.
I don't think we disagree. I think I may tend to be on the line of time potentially being more quantifiable than people dismiss it as not being. I think that makes sense. I would tend to be on the line of open to that possibility. But as I said a little bit ago, there are a lot of people that don't align with that. Now, the problem with time is that it may not be ordered. It may not be quantifiable. It might not be the privileged present that some make it out to be. According to Robert Lawrence Kuhn, writer and host of Closer to Truth, which is hilarious for a scientific show, a public television and multimedia program featuring the world's leading thinkers exploring humanity's deepest questions regarding the cosmos, consciousness, and a search for meaning, many physicists and philosophers assert that time is an illusion. Hugh Price, professor of philosophy at Cambridge University, claims the three basic properties of time come not from the physical world, but from our mental states. A present moment that is special, some kind of flow or passage, and an absolute direction. What physics gives us, Price said, is the so-called block universe, where time is just part of a four-dimensional space-time, and space-time itself is not fundamental but emerges out of some deeper structure. We sense a quote-unquote arrow or direction of time and even of causation, he said, because our minds add a subjective ingredient to reality so that we are projecting onto the world the temporal perspective that we have as agents in this environment, according to space.com. Very reasonable. Makes a lot of sense. Not saying it's wrong at all. I think it is a very accurate take. I think that's for the people that don't believe that time, they believe it's an illusion, which doesn't necessarily mean it's not real. It just means it's an illusion. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, also, if time is surely from our mental states, though, how should we best understand it? MIT's physicist Max Tegmark suggests that we can portray our reality as either a three-dimensional place where stuff happens over time or as a four-dimensional place where nothing happens, the block universe referenced a little bit ago. And if it really is the second picture, then change really is an illusion because there's nothing that's changing. It's just there, past, present, and future. So life is like a movie, and space-time is like the DVD. For those who were not... who were born in the 2000s, that was a disc. I'm just kidding, you guys know what it is. There's nothing about the DVD itself that is changing in any way, even though there's all this drama unfolding in the movie. We have the illusion at any given moment that the past already happened and the future doesn't yet exist, and that things are changing, but all I'm ever aware of is my brain state right now. The only reason I feel like I have a past is that my brain contains memories. So that's a lot to ingest, and I sometimes think that there's a hard line taken by a lot of these individuals, and I don't know if I agree with it.
Yeah, I've used the word construct a number of times. I've used it in the past as well, and I think there are kind of two ways that you need to think about that particular word in conjunction with our message today. And the first is that outside of our own perception, there are things that we define using measurable instances of physics, gravity, and thermodynamics, and all the different things we've already talked a little bit about, that are constructed outside of us being. If we did not exist, they would still be constructed. Okay? And then there are things that are constructed within our, as this person said, he's talking more metaphysical, or psychological and metaphysical. I'm talking about more, they're constructs that we as human beings have to put into place to define the other constructs that already exist. And the number one aspect of allowing us to measure anything in this quote-unquote block universe that they're talking about is to apply this construct called time. So I wish I had a whiteboard up. Whiteboard, there's my boomerness talking about, I wish I had a PowerPoint or this.
At least you didn't say chalkboard or tablet.
Yeah, I'm going to tap it out on
We have
rock.
tablets again, they just look like this.
I'm going to put it on a cave painting.
Yeah.
But when I view things, I view this giant... In my mind, I always have to put a parameter on it because my ability as a human being to see, not infinitesimal, but things that are
minute.
No, forever, that are ubiquitous and that are always there and they have no parameters at all is beyond my capabilities as a human being. So I always think of it as having like this huge black square. Let's use that. Circle, square, it doesn't matter. And it's as big as the universe. It is the universe. And it is all of existence from the start to the finish, whatever we define that as, already there. Just a million, zillion, trillions of whatever it's so many numbers we can't even talk about it. And there are things you can look up on YouTube that talk about data points that could be constructed into black holes, and the amount of data that could actually hold is kind of like what I'm talking about. So all it is all these data points, and we're just one of them. Mm-hmm. Okay? Everybody is one of them. All we are is a data point at a moment. And as we, quote unquote, move through that giant block of universe, we create behind us a thread of history that happened within our viewpoint. And ahead of us, everything is possible, depending on our decision making. So where that line goes, it could go straight, it could go in all these different directions, but it moves in a direction. And the direction it moves in is what we have defined as time. So everything behind is your hard drive, right? It's all the data points that have happened to you, reimagined, re-understood, relearned, rethought of, all the different things we could talk about as far as our memories are concerned. That data is all compacted into your filing cabinet, your hard drive, your understanding of life in the universe. Everything ahead of you is subject to possibility or probability. And that's all it is.
Well, that's pleasant.
It's fun.
It is.
Because think about it this way. That means anything that ever has happened or ever could happen is all there.
And it's all entirely possible or entirely not possible.
Depending on all the circumstances of, and when I say we're single dots moving through this space, we're not moving independent of others. We're pushed in different directions by all the circumstances that we're pushed by our decisions. Certainly, that's the number one thing.
Which are dictated by things that happen
That
within
can
our
be
peripheral.
dictated.
Yeah.
This sounds like a Rick and Morty episode.
I wish
probably is.
I wish I could do their voices. I probably could if I tried. It's just something to think about. I mean, obviously, this is a very abstract episode from the Wolf and Bull today. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that people who say that time isn't real have said. I mean, it's considered an external parameter by some physicists, or an independent parameter in the classic equation of motion. It seems to disappear when you study physics until you get to relativity. So, I mean, there's a lot of differing opinions that I don't know if we'll ever find an absolute position on this.
We won't.
I don't think we will. I mean,
I don't think we're
it's
meant
interesting.
to. I don't think we're meant to.
Yeah, I don't think even if we aren't meant to, I don't necessarily know if it's a possibility. I feel like it's a cyclical conversation, which leads to one thing or another, which goes back to my premise that time is a circle, and that if we were to actually move out far enough, the universe would not be a flat plane, but it would be a giant donut.
Not just a donut, but one that's curved because of
A curved
the
donut.
physical nature of magnetism and gravity and everything else.
And then,
Which gives us an illusion.
Yeah.
Because once we get to the very end of whatever our time is, and we figure these things out, and you start the cycle again,
there's a Lincoln.
you think you punch through,
There's a Lincoln at the end of
and
that
you end
time.
up on the other side.
There's a Lincoln staring right deep back into your eyes. You punch through the time hole, the time warp, the time
You know what
worm,
it's-
the wormhole,
You know what it's like?
glint of a Lincoln's headlight
So when I was a
right in your
kid-
face.
When I was a-
Can we escape the inevitability
No.
of Lincoln
You can't escape the event horizon, man. Nothing escapes the event horizon.
for a wonderful price of $39.99?
Here's the interesting thing: if you observe an event horizon, light disappears into it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the event horizon, you never enter it.
Wow.
Think about that.
We should all live on the event horizon.
We do, don't we?
That's too deep.
That is
too deep
quite
of an
the
episode.
question.
We all
That
do.
one is too. Yeah, but
The $6 million
that's
question.
another episode.
You think about that. If you have a drain in the sink and you have water in the
full
sink,
of hair
every bit of water
and toothpaste.
eventually will go down that drain. Some of it faster, some of it slower.
Some of it not at all if it's plugged.
Nice.
By too much hair
Or a Lincoln.
or a Lincoln.
It's got a Lincoln entrepreneur stuck down the drain.
Hey guys, I've got a car stuck in my drain. Honestly, there's a lot to intake
I
with that.
love this stuff.
I know you
because
do. Yeah,
I do.
a
Because
glint hits your eye. Like if we were to shine, yeah. Thank God it's not direct because it would blind me and it would just not be good. But yeah, no, it's
Well, either the glint blinds you or the
that's a
glint
given. That's a
blinds you.
given. Yeah, you shine a bright
Well,
enough light.
The nice thing I can say about all this is that my perception of time means that I am already wise. You guys
So-
are less wise than me.
Supposedly, maybe. Supposedly. So I got a question. It's multiple universes, right? And in every universe,
Sorry, I
every
yawned.
universe, it's okay. Yeah, no, this is not your cup of tea.
Multi-universes,
Wouldn't
all
they
it
just
is the probability of the future.
Yeah, but so if that's the case, isn't there technically multiple universes in which humanity doesn't exist?
If
Multitudes
okay.
of multitudes of
So
universes.
multiverse, though, the multiverse philosophy depends on whether you're talking about
this
history
is a
or
podcast,
No,
pal.
no. It's fine. No, multiverse just reminds me of Marvel.
She just gets up and leaves.
No, I'm just
it's
suggesting.
the ultimate storyteller's dream because you can kill off every character
And they
you
all
want, and
come
it all
back.
exists somewhere else.
They never
right?
kill them off. That's the problem.
They don't
That's
have
why
to.
their stories
Or
are
they
bad.
or they do kill them off, but they're still around somewhere in a slightly different version. But again, think of my premise that I was talking about. You're a data point. Everything behind
Wait,
you.
let's condense this. You're a Lincoln
You're a Lincoln data point.
on a freeway.
You're an event horizon.
You're a
data
Lincoln
point.
driving on the 215.
You're first the Lincoln with Matthew McConaughey in it.
You're on.
And then you're a Lincoln with he's in the driver's seat. And then he's in the
You're a Lincoln.
Then he's in the back seat.
You're a Lincoln driving
He's on the
west.
hood.
You're a Lincoln driving west on the 78, the most dangerous freeway in all of America. And what's behind you?
While the sun's going down.
What's
for sure.
behind you are data points, other cars, your carbon fuels, other versions of Matthew McConaughey's in the same car behind you, driving all at the same speed. An army of Matthew McConaughey's.
See the
And
interesting-
before you,
Don't interrupt him. He'll keep going.
before you is the future. Is that much more condensed?
the whole point is the whole multiverse thing.
Lincoln is inevitable.
All you have to do is think about the idea of probabilities.
Yeah.
Okay. Which means everything from your data point forward is possible and has a probability associated with it based on other outside circumstances, based on your own decisions, based on whatever. And here's the idea of multiverse is that if you make a decision to go right in your Lincoln,
Driving 75 because
you've created a new version of that timeline.
Of your Lincoln.
And if you decided to go left in the Lincoln, you've created a separate version. So if your idea is to conceptualize that both are possibilities or probabilities for sure, then you've created two timelines or multiple ones in between, thus creating the existence. If everything exists all the time, all at once, then every possibility is possible.
And if you go right in between, you've got 3 Lincolns. And if you use a discount code Matthew McConaughey on Lincoln.com, this is not true.
Which would you rather have, 3 Lincolns
Or
or
one
if
Lincoln?
I gave you 1 Lincoln today and doubled it for 30 days? Which would you rather
The
have?
Lincoln, I would want probably the 3 Lincolns because the problem with the double Lincolns would be exponential. I'd have well over 1 million Lincolns at that point.
Which goes back to your whole premise of entropy and the chaotic nature.
my
of-
premise.
the premise you were mentioning. In
The
here.
second law of thermodynamics.
Well, I think you said specifically that this is where your belief lines up with more.
Yes.
So if you believe that states of energy go from usable ones to unusable ones, which means things go from a simple state, usable boundaries and things like that you talked about, to a more chaotic state.
Then back to a simple state.
But it goes back to a simple state within what context? It doesn't reconform itself into the original entity.
No.
What it does is it breaks down into smaller component parts, more complexity. And when you look at that, so if you had this giant light and it breaks down into 10 lights, and you look at each individual of those 10 lights, each of them now becomes what the original was.
Yeah.
So that's not breaking down into unusable energy. That's breaking down into a different version. It's Horton Hears a Who, right? That's back to Seuss here. Okay. We go back to that.
I'm just kidding. I know what
You know that one.
Yeah,
right?
I was like, you know that one.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea behind those kind of things is that there are these the nature of our nature is unfathomable. So why do we constrict it? We constrict it so that we can understand it. And our main job of constricting that, our main way of doing that, is to define everything through the process of
A donut.
a donut, yes, or Lincoln, or time.
Don't keep talking about donuts. My stomach's starting to growl.
Yeah,
You need
I'm
a protein
hungry.
donut.
Very hungry.
Protein donut.
Well, I mean,
Needed.
yeah, I think that that kind of wraps up the topic. I mean, no one knows. We don't know.
What a conundrum.
It is. It's a quandary.
Will we ever figure this out?
No. I don't
Okay.
think, well, I really don't. I don't think it's.
But
I think it's a non-answerable question.
but if you want to figure it out, you need to follow us on Wolf and Bull.
And you need to buy a link.
We will continue to talk about it.
You'll keep pulling apart these
Yeah.
complex.
And then one day we will be the ones who figure out
Yeah.
if time really is real or not.
There's a
In other
whatever the
news.
version of 100 years from now, a thing called a podcast is out. Whatever
Yeah.
the version of that. You know, way back 100 years ago, there was this Wolf and Bull thing,
Yeah.
and there was this episode number
67.
67.
We would have come full circle
Go
by
back
then.
to that. There's textbooks written.
We'll be doing this with smoke signals because that'll be
There's
the new
full
way
circle. Exactly.
the new way to communicate.
We'll be
We'll
tapping
be doing
it
it
out
with
on
smoke
rocks.
circles.
We'll be
And I'll
doing
still be-
episodes over a fire
No,
pit
they'll be-
with people sitting
I'll
around.
still need to anxiety
All the-
poop, but in that instance in universe, rather than wiping, I'll just rub it on my face.
Why?
What the hell?
Everything's full circle. That's what we did as humans to blend in.
How did we go?
Predator taught me that, okay?
I'm trying
You
to say
cover
something
yourself
nice.
in poop and the predator doesn't see you. This is legitimate science.
I'm trying to say something nice about how, like, having fireside chats. He goes into rubbing poop
What are
on his face.
you? What are you, Eisenhower? Fireside FDR?
All we could
Fireside
see-
chat?
Why do I
all we
say
could see
anything?
is
I
the
don't know.
white- all we could see is his eyes because he was covered with his own.
He was
feces.
covered in poop. Don't strike until you see the whites of their
That's
eyes,
right.
or smell them because they're gonna stink real
I
bad.
hope he's downwind. man.
Yeah, well, I think that wraps up our episode. We don't have an answer for you. This is a fun thought experiment. This is us talking about.
Give us your comments.
Yeah, give us your comments.
Yes.
Go ahead and leave a comment. Go ahead and leave us a review on any of the major listening platforms. If you like what you saw, if you like what you listened to, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing, and we would love to grow the show so we can bring you more content and entertainment. But yeah, go ahead also to give us a like. Smash that like button. Pound that like button. Caress that like button.
Just don't spread any fecal matter on it.
Do it. Dude, spread the thing.
Well, I mean, if you
Spread the
press at the
matter.
same time, it's okay. We'll accept that.
And for all of my fellow anxiety poopers out there, you're not alone. It happens. It's okay. Accept it. Go on with your life. Move forward. Buy a Lincoln.